G'day, it's Rob here again. Well, if you're like me, I peruse forums on a regular basis, and it's always interesting to see what people are discussing and questions they're asking, and yeah, sometimes I'll contribute, give some advice if I can help. But quite often, things that you take for granted as being the most simple things regarding metal lathes, people are having difficulty with, and then you think, well, yeah, it's interesting. It's not stuff that's actually in the technical book when you get the lathe, you've got your new lathe, but it is such a simple subject, you think, well, gee, that surprises me. Now, one of the things that I saw recently was a guy asked a question, how do you hold a chuck to stop it turning while you undo these bolts, these 3 bolts on your typical Chinese chuck? A lot of Chinese chucks, Asian chucks have a bolt up back on them. But it's really very simple. And I'll show you what I do. Now, there are various ways to do this, but I'll just show you basically the easier way of doing it. Right, to start off with, you should always have a protective board near the chuck to protect the ways, and also to rest your chuck on while you put it on and off. So I have a shelf, a little tray in the top of one of my drawers, and I use this, and this just sits here. So you've got something to put your bolts on and your chuck on, and it saves any damage from occurring on the lathe, so it's the way to go. Now, what's involved? Well, okay, you've got the spanner they give you, which goes on like so, and now it's a matter of undo that bolt without this turning. Now, it doesn't really matter which gear you're in. I mean, if you put it in bottom gear, it will make it a little bit easy, but overall, if you use the method I'll show you, it shouldn't be a problem. Now, if it's the first time you've taken off the chuck, make sure you mark the chuck against the backing plate. Just centre punch mark will do, whatever, as long as there's a reference point, because the chuck can go back on in any of 3 positions. You want to always have it put back in the same position, so that way any variation in the backing plate and the chuck jaws will be allowed for, and that will be hopefully your most accurate position. I mean, you can find the most accurate position by rotating the chuck and then basically mark it, or you can basically accept that when they put it together that was the most accurate position. But either way, if you mark it, well then, if you ever grind the jaws, you can always be sure that you can put the chuck back onto the backing plate in the most accurate position. All right, now then, what they give you with these lathes is a standard chuck key like that. Now they're okay, but this comes in very close to the headstock. As you can see, it's a cruddy setup, but that's what you get. So what I did, I made up a much longer handled one out of some junk. All right, that way you've got good clearance, so it's a good project and easily make up a chuck key. But presuming you've got the standard chuck key, or just for the sake of demonstration, I'll show you how you do it. All you do is stick your key in one of the pinion keys, put your little spanner on, whoops, and just give it a tap. As you can see, you don't have to have these bolts done up very tight. They don't have to be, pulled up real hard. I mean, if they were pulled up real hard, you wouldn't do this because you could risk breaking the cast steel pinion gear keyway. But as these are just nipped up, just takes a light tap, and that's all there is to it. It's a piece of cake. Same as when you do them up, you just put them on and just give them a little bit. You don't have to go super hard. That's all it takes. Just light pressure. This chuck and backing plate aren't going to separate. I mean, that's it. All right? So that's all there is to the whole process. Just, you know, give it a light tap. Now, when you use the spanner, you always have the small jaw as the leading jaw too. If you ever use spanners, you always, the small jaw always goes in the direction of rotation. So if you're undoing it, the small jaw goes that way. If you're doing it up, the small jaw goes this way. I mean, my man was a mechanic, and if he saw anybody using a spanner the wrong way around, you get a smack over the head for sure. So that's what is to it. Now, having the longer handle makes things a lot easier, because you can just basically, you've got more leverage, and you just basically you know. But the short one will work okay. So that's all there is to it, folks. Now, having said that, the first time you take the chuck off, you don't know how tight these bolts are going to be. So I wouldn't recommend using this method unless you're sure that they're just nipped up and not pulled up really tight. Now, if they are pulled up really tight, there's something else you need to do first. I'll show you a safer way to do it. Okay, we don't know how tight these bolts are. We're assuming they're going to be quite tight. What you do then is you get your chuck key, you get the biggest Allen head wrench you can find, and you put that in the chuck. And you pull it up. Now, you can put all the leverage you want on those bolts. You're not going to overload these little pinion gears, keyways, and these are quite strong. I mean, they're meant to take a lot of pressure doing the chuck key up, you know, and I mean, I have seen some of these broken on lathe, but people must be absolute butchers and be beating the hell out of it to break them, because they're not cast metal. They are, you know, machined steel. They're proper hard stuff. So, we've done that. Now it's just a matter of get your spanner and just basically put it on, and once again, it's that easy, you see. You don't have to do these things up damn tight. Just pull them up, just firm like that, and you're good to go. But anyway, that's the way you do it. The first time round, I would do it this way. You could put anything in there that will grip in the jaws to hold it, you know, that you can lever on, even a jemmy bar or a breaker bar, I meant to say, or, you know, anything that the three jaw will grip on. Doesn't even have to be irregular shape, even round stuff, you know. Once you pull up on it, that's where all your load's going. So, okay, guys, that's it. I hope they found it interesting. Now, one last tip, which may save you from injury. It's always a good idea to have the chuck jaws extended a bit whenever you take them off or put them back on to the carrier plate. The reason being that if you put it that way or that way, it can't roll. It can't roll. I mean, if you've got these jaws right back in and you have the chuck in this position, I've seen them roll off and land on people's feet and crunch to the floor. So yeah, extend the jaws slightly, that way it can't roll, and if you ever do take the chuck off, don't leave it looking like that. Turn it around that way, so if it does roll, it's not going to come rolling off the edge of the lathe and crunching down on your boot. So that's it. I mean, once again, we've got it off, we put it back, we've got the reference marks. It's a simple piece of cake to just put it on, line up your marks. And it also helps you line the bolt holes up, because, you know, you don't need to be sliding the thing back and forwards. As you can see, that bolt goes straight in because the hole lines up perfectly. Okay, guys, well, there you go. This applies to any chuck, 3-jaw, 4-jaw, and as I said, don't pull them up super hard. You don't have to. Just enough to nip it up, and from then on, you'll be home and hosed. Okay, that's it from me. I hope you found it interesting. It's one for the newbies, and maybe the old timers will get a few hints out of it as well. Okay, catch you next time. Cheers.